But it just goes back to, it just reinforces some of the things you learn in the military, is you treat people the way you want to be treated. You want them to feel like they're part of something greater than themselves.
He's a retired lieutenant colonel of the U.S. Army, and he was recently listed as number 4 on the largest area veteran-owned business list in the Milwaukee area, and he's still growing, doing some phenomenal things in business. And I just want to thank you for having us here today, David, inside your facility, which is awesome, by the way. Great organization you're running here. Can you just tell our viewers a little bit about what it is that you do? Where did you grow up, and what was like growing up for you?
My father was in the military, so I kind of bounced around every 18 months to 4 years. I grew up in Germany and then England, and ended up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, my junior year. Went to college in Utah, and then was commissioned as a second lieutenant right out of college. And I went in the infantry, and didn't really know anything else. That's what my father did, and that's what I did, and that's, you kind of see that. But he was an Air Force guy. I went in the Army. I couldn't fly. I was colorblind, so I went in the infantry.
So is your father obviously a big influence on you jumping into the military?
No.
No?
My father and I aren't very close. The things my father did taught me to be a better father, or lack of what he did taught me to be a better father. So I have 2 boys. We're just not very close. I have a mother I'm very close with, my brother, but it's hard. You bounce around a lot, and you just dad's on his mission, and then you join, and then you realize that you have to make time for your kids. And so I think, based on my dad being so saturated with the military, that we just never had a bond. So
why was the Army the right choice for you at the time when your dad was Air Force? I know you were colorblind, but why was that the service for you?
A typical guy with a chip on his shoulder and wanted to go in the infantry and go to combat. And then when you realize that there's no honor in death, so that's kind of why I went in the military. Just type A personality, chip on my shoulder, and I was a wrestler, did martial arts since I was about 13, and so the infantry seemed like a good fit for me. The Army. Didn't really want to join the Air Force unless I could go, fly or be a PJ. Marines. The Army seemed like a better fit for me.
Sure.
I served 22 years honorably. I miss it. It's a lot of good friends that you meet. Some that you lost, and a lot of accomplishments. Not my last job, but the one prior to that, I was the chief of staff for Lieutenant General Daly, and I really enjoyed my time with him. So it was good.
What's probably the most memorable experience you have from the military?
Probably as a lieutenant. I mean, you're in charge. You start off, day one, you're in charge of 33 people, and that's kind of baptism by fire. And I think we went to Haiti, which wasn't the coolest mission in the world, but nonetheless, it was still fun. You just start leading from day one as an officer, so that was pretty fun. And it was very rewarding. You're teaching these kids to go out, and hopefully you can do a difference with them as far as training and stuff like that. I mean, I had a kid that, hey, we'd like our 4-day pass, and it's like, can you call for fire? And they couldn't. I go, first time, it's not time for a 4-day pass. It's time to train. We're setting these kids up to be the next future leaders. So I took my job very seriously.
Did you ever think that you'd end up in the position that you're in today, running a business?
No, not at all. I was married for a time. I think I showed you a picture of my wife and I. I retired out of the military 1 October 2013. My wife passed away 3 October 2015. So that being said, I showed up about a week later, and there's a lot of employees that were curious if I was going to sell the company and kind of get rid of it. And I prayed about it and decided, this is what God wants me to do. So it's been a rough 2.5 years. So I never planned on running a staffing company. I was semi-retired. I have a place down in Florida, but I have a lot of employees that I care about. And as far as Elite goes, it's more of a family. My retention rate, nobody leaves Elite. So I enjoy coming to work every day, and honestly, it's what's kept me going for a long time.
What was that transition like when you left the military and came into the civilian life after serving for 20 plus years?
It was pretty unique. I mean, as soon as I got out, about 4 months later, Crystal became ill. And so I gave me a purpose for a while to take care of her for about 1.5 years. But being in the military, you know what right looks like, you know what you have to do, so you just keep going. And that's, the same with these kids in combat. They know what they have to do and they just keep going. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years. We're doing really well. We're in growth mode. The company's healthy. It's probably positioned to do better than it's ever been. So, and a lot of that was a higher power kind of pushing me along. So,
that's amazing. What are some things that you've taken from your military background and now applying to your business today?
Well, again, like when Crystal first passed away, I just didn't know what I didn't know, and so the first day I walked in, I go, "Let me see your task org chart." We didn't have one. We had probably 30 people reporting to one person. So the first thing I did when I took over was reorganize, task org, what people were reporting to, who they're supposed to be reporting to, holding people accountable. As far as like the military background, it's just, you just move forward. You know what right looks like. It's kind of ingrained in you. Like I said, I think God was pushing me along as far as, making the right choices. But it's just, there's probably not much that has not been looked at.
Sure.
But, based on the military, things that you do, it's just kind of ingrained in you. You have to move forward. It's like, if you stand still, you're not going to succeed. So you just keep moving forward, whether you are stressed out or not, whether you can remember your name or not. You do know what right looks like based on, it's just beaten into you in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in some ways the military I've run the organization like a military organization. And I treat everybody the same way I would like to be treated. And I think I got that from the military. And I think a lot of things you get from the military is, the one thing I did get out of the military is the best leaders are humble leaders. And they're more servants than anything. So I kind of serve the employees. I have a beach house down in Florida that I let them use for free. I have a house on the Ocalchee Lake. They're welcome to come anytime. And so I try to treat them as valued employees, and I think based on that, that's why our retention rate is so low. And I do care about the employees as well. I mean, they're just really a good group of people. If you're at a bar, there's probably 18 to 20 of them all there. Whereas, like at a job, it's like Friday, I can't wait till Friday. But, here it's like, hey, what are you guys doing this week? Let's get together. Versus, I don't know what it is like at your job, but if it's, I can't wait till Friday, so I don't have to see these people anymore. It's just not like that. But
sure.
As the outsider looking in, it was pretty rough for a while with the employees. It's just weird. You're in the military. They don't know who you are, what you've done, what your experiences are. And then after Crystal passed, I was running meetings where my hands were shaking, and I think it would kind of scare them. But based on some things I did in the military, nothing cool. But with Crystal passing and giving her mouth to mouth, and it just my whole world crashing down, I couldn't stop shaking. But I knew I had to run the organization because it wasn't being ran right.
Sure.
So, and that's just part of being in the military and moving forward. And I think as a leader, you have to ask for help. I run into some people that are too afraid to ask for help. To include, I hate to say this, but Crystal, when she was sick, she could have asked, "Hey, I need your help." But I think that's part of, being in the military. You know your weaknesses, and back then I needed help, and so I would ask these individuals for help, and this is what we need to do. And instead of, instead of knowing you're in charge or being in charge, just kind of being more, inclusive as far as making leadership decisions, because I knew back then my head wasn't clear, and so I just wanted to make sure I was making the right decisions, and that involves asking for help. And I'm not afraid to do that, and I don't think most military guys are.
When you look at your organization, I know that you're an avid book reader.
Correct.
What's the most influential book you've read throughout the course of your career that's had the most impact on you?
I just read so many. Good to Great's probably one. The 10 Times Rule's one. I'm in the middle of reading Creating Magic, which is really good. I've actually connected with Lee on LinkedIn, which was kind of cool.
Excellent.
And but it just goes back to, it just reinforces some of the things you learn in the military, is you treat people the way you want to be treated. You want them to feel like they're part of something greater than themselves. And if you treat people like that, I mean, they're going to want to stick around. They're going to want to go the extra mile for you. It's not going to be on Friday, hey, I'm taking off at 5. I got some work to do, I'm going to hang around till 6. And I have numerous employees that they hang around till the work is done. Not, once it's like 5 o'clock, they have a plate of china, hey, I'm hitting the door. So if you treat people like valued employees and you treat them with dignity and respect, they're going to give you a lot more in return. So, just about how you treat people. And I started reading this book and just kind of reinforces that. I don't know if you've read. Oh, you sent this to me.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I actually interviewed Lee
oh, that's right.
about a month and a half ago, I think it was. And he's been a phenomenal influence, through reading his books. I've learned a lot, making career shifts and customer service and stuff like that. So
yeah, I was just amazed by his story. But I read so many books because I thought maybe I was at a disadvantage when Crystal passed. But the reality of it is, the military has a great structure that teaches you how to be a leader if you follow it. And some of the books I've read, it's just like, how did this get published? I mean, it's not telling you anything you don't already know. But I like this book because it reinforces, how you treat employees and how you get a better return on your investment just by the way you treat employees. But I meet leaders, and sometimes in the military they pretend to care, but people know if you care or not. But if you truly care about employees, they're really going to give back to you, and that goes back to when Crystal passed. I remember this guy walks up to me and well, it kept me going. But I remember I had to come in to get some pictures for the funeral, and I didn't know him at all. He goes, "Hey, can I give you a hug?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." He goes, "I think it's time that you lean on your elite family now." And that's kept me going, because when Crystal passed, it was really it's tough. So, but the employees have kept me going, and so and for that I'm really grateful. There's a lot of employees that, not a lot, but some I had to let go though.
Sure.
So.
You've built a great culture within your organization, and can you talk about how that has been important for your growth as well? I know you've sent some employees away and you've brought some new talent in. How do you go about hiring people that fit your culture?
Well, that kind of goes back to knowing your weaknesses, and so I actually have a couple people I'll actually bring in an entire panel to make sure they fit the culture, because the reality of it is I don't fit the culture. Military people just don't fit in. I mean, they've moved around, they've seen things they don't really want to see. And so I try to maintain the culture that Crystal had, where it was profitable, there are team players, there's no bickering, there's no gossip. And so based on that, knowing my weakness, at least back then when we would hire people, I have my VP, Nancy, Ben, Jeff, and they'll sit in and after the interview, I go, "What do you think?" I think they fit our culture, so we'll hire that person. But if they don't, we can't hire them, because I can't have the gossip, and it's like cancer in the military. You have a couple bad apples, and you spend 90% of your time on 10% of your people. I don't want to do that. I'm retired for a reason. I don't want to spend 90% of my time on 10% of the people. So that being said, I have some people, a panel that will interview, and then we'll come back and say they're a culture fit, and then we'll hire them. So.
What are your plans for the future now that you've got the company where it's in one of those states where you're ready to grow and expand?
With everything, you either go big or go home. I mean, I'm not going to stick around Milwaukee and just it's stagnant. It's like with anything in the military, you want to go big. So we started pushing into different states as far as growth. I'm not a real big fan of brick and mortar, but I am a big fan of Regis, where you pay like $300 a month. So once we get a certain amount of clients up in the Fond du Lac area, then we'll do a brick and mortar as far as Regis goes. We have put an actual address. We're trying to push down to Florida for a physical location because it's cold here.
And you got a home there.
And I got a home there, and so I think right now we're just I'll see where it goes as far as the growth goes. I mean, as far as pushing into different states, and then it's like with any course you go through in the military. I was at a jungle warfare course, and the guy told me, he goes, "You just kind of have to move with it." whereas, you get lost. But at the time, I just, but it made sense. I mean, it's like when you move at night, you just have to kind of go with the flow. You have to have an end goal as far as where you want to go. And so, I've put together a business plan as far as what I want to make, where we want to be, and how to get there. And, there's going to be, and you have your, what they call waypoints along the way. And so, as long as you pass that waypoint, okay, we're here, so let's keep going this way. But if you have to, make another turn, then that's what kind of makes us a little different. Is we're pretty flexible now. We have a solution for about any business. We have like the pro staff, and we have the VMS. We have what's an RPI, recruitment process insourcing, and we can go in and do projects. I told you about the one healthcare provider where we staffed about, I think it's 600 or 700 just for that one hospital. We have another project coming up, so we probably have a solution for about anything. And my talent scout can do everything from recruit welders to doctors. My pro staff can CFOs, CPAs, and then we have some other clients that do light industrial. As long as they're direct hires, we can do that. We just have a solution for about everything, just based on how versatile we are now and adaptable.
This area is going through a lot of economic growth. Foxconn's coming in. There's some other large corporations.
No, there's a lot of exciting things coming up. The one thing right now is the talent's dried up. I mean, right now it's all passive candidates, whereas before you could have resumes and kind of send that over, but the talent pool is dried up. I mean, there's more jobs than people, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to recruit. So you really, you have to hit the passive candidates. Anybody that's actively looking, probably not somebody you're gonna wanna. And our clients, that's what they pay for, is passive candidates. Convincing a client or a person to go from a good job to a potentially better job. They just don't know. And that's what the recruiters do, is to convince them that this could be a better opportunity for you.
With that being said, I mean, you're talking to these HR people. I mean, does it make sense to bring talent in from other states and give them a stipend to move here? Or how is that working? Are you trying to integrate that in a little bit, because of the dried up talent?
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question is, that's the first thing. Is there a reload fee? We have or do they have to reload? We have a client, they don't mind, but it's just based on their budget. And if it's, they're down in Monroe, Wisconsin, they're going to have a reload fee. There's not a big talent pool. And we are in Milwaukee, so there is a pretty decent sized talent pool. But we would ask, I mean, if we find the right candidate, we might go back and say, hey, can you relocate them here? And if it's a decent enough client, they'll pay for a relocation fee. But then it's kind of, not that I want to put Milwaukee down, but it's, somebody from San Diego is probably not going to move here. So, if we're going to do a reload, it's going to have to be from like Chicago, Detroit, somewhere in Minneapolis, where there's like weather, or recruit out of other places. Like we had a dermatologist client, and we could recruit out of, if they have multiple locations, and it just depends on how well funded they are. I mean,
sure.
If they want to do a reload fee.
Sure. What was a mistake you made as a leader that once you made it, you learned from it? How did you grow from that mistake?
My first company commander he yelled a lot. I mean, he treated us. I mean, he just wasn't a good leader. But in his mind, he was. I mean, just based on yelling and discipline, and you were always in fear of your job, and so when I first took over as a platoon leader, I thought that's what right looked like. But the reality of it is, people want to be treated equally. They already know what rank you are. Mm-hmm. So if you lead by rank, you've already lost. But he led by rank. He said he was a captain more times than I knew he was a captain, because he had his rank on. And it was just a draconian environment that none of us as the platoon leaders enjoyed working with. And so I think based on that, I thought, initially that's what right looked like, but I had a platoon sergeant that pulled me aside. He goes, "Sir, you don't treat these kids that way." And so that was a big learning experience. And from then on out, I treated people the way I'd want to get treated. And then based on that, I mean, most of the guys that used to work for me still keep in touch. They always went the extra mile. If there was a live fire that came up, I mean, I got picked. I mean, we had to do we worked with the Special Forces in Haiti. That was the first time conventional and Special Forces have worked together. I got picked to do that, or my platoon got picked to do that because they were just good kids. You know, you treated these kids, you know, you don't know where they come from or what their backgrounds are, and so, you know, they're joining the military for a reason. They have to feel like they're a part of something greater than themselves, and you treat them that way. You treat them with dignity and respect. Whereas my first company commander didn't treat anybody with dignity and respect. And I think, you know, I've made so many failures along the way, but as long as you recognize them and you act on it, it goes back to letting people know, hey, I screwed up, it's okay. Don't act like you didn't. And you see a lot of leaders today, not a lot, but some, that it goes back to knowing your weaknesses. You know, if you don't know them, if you're not self-aware, you're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way, and you have to reevaluate what you're doing on a daily basis if it's the right thing. I'm not saying I'm the best leader at all, but I do reflect and see, you know, how I can be better. Like I said, I'm kind of new to the civilian world, so I don't know if a lot of civilians do that. You know, I don't know, maybe you would know more. I mean, but you run into, I've heard about there's leaders out there that they take credit for everything, and that's not how it should work. I mean, I give credit to things I've never even done. I mean, I pass leads off, and you know, but even when I was a company commander, anything that I did that was good, you know, I would say somebody else did it and give them recognition for that, because they put in work too, and that's just part of a good leader, being humble. And I think based on the experiences that I've personally had, I think, and what I've read too is humble. You know, the best leaders are humble leaders. They're servants. I'm sure you read about the level of 5 leaders. I think I've fallen like 4 maybe, but you have to be self-aware. You have to know your weaknesses and you know what I mean?
Sure. What advice would you have for a veteran who's getting out of the military right now, or they've been out for a while and they just can't find traction in whatever it is that they're doing? They're just going through difficulty adapting what they did in the military to civilian life. What sort of advice would you have for someone like that?
That's a really tough one. Well, I mean, I run into some veterans, some of which, you know, you have to realize, you know, you served, and people might thank you, but they don't know what you did, you know, what you've been through, and you just have to realize that life is done. And you can tell people you're veterans all day long, but from what I've seen, other than, hey, thank you for your service, there's a few people that understand what that really means. That, you know, so I think it's just realize that life is behind you now. Don't rely on that to get a different job. You know, separate yourself, you know, find out who you are and what you want to do. But that whole life is gone. It might get you a free cup of coffee at the VFW. And well, the last one I got 2 free cups of beer. They were in like a plastic container, but you just have to realize that life is done. And now you have to find a new life outside of the military, and you can't rely on, you know, what you did in the military, but realize that you do bring leadership, and you have to obviously put together a good resume. You know, you put together a LinkedIn profile. You know, anything you post on Facebook, you know, people are going to look at it. You know, so obviously it has to be professional content, even on Facebook. And so, depending on what type of soldier you were, you know, you realize if you're a good soldier, bad soldier. You know, the reality of it is, if I wanted to gain traction, I had to better myself, and that was through education, reading books, figuring out what I wanted to do in life, and do a self-assessment. And that's what I would recommend to any veteran: is that life is over, and you're not going to really relate well to people anymore based on what you've done, what you've seen, traveling the world, and now you live in Wisconsin. I don't know if you find it, but sometimes it's hard to find common ground with people that grew up in one place and never left. But these people have, you know, based on being in basic training, or for you in the Marines, I mean, you guys all went through the same thing, girls and guys. You're gonna have a hard time finding common ground and just realizing that's okay. You served for a reason, because you wanted to be different. So, you know, as far as being relevant, you're going to need to be on LinkedIn. You're going to have a decent resume. You know, putting that together. You know, you can try to, and this is what we do in business. You try to leverage those veteran networks. A fellow veteran is going to help another fellow veteran a lot easier than reaching out to an HR director. Hey, here's my, and like when I'm playing with the company now, who do you know? You know, I have a friend who's the director over one of the hospitals, and he's a fellow veteran. I served with him, and he's like, yeah, let me introduce their HR manager. So I would just really try to leverage those professional veteran networks like yourself, like me. If a veteran comes to me and says, hey, I need help with a job, can you look at my resume? I'm more than happy to do that. And because I have a common bond with them that I don't have with the average person. So I guess that's about it. Just leverage your veteran network, at least right off the bat. I have a friend that's been doing that for a while. He was able to get a job. Like I said, any veteran that reaches out to me, I'll help. And there's veterans filtered throughout all the networks. And even if they don't know you, they're going to want to, if you call them up, they're going to want to help. You know, whether it's, I have a buddy of mine that, I did martial arts with, he got out as an E5, but he's a fellow veteran. And anytime I need to call him, whether it's personal or professional, he'll take it. Because like I said, I went through some pretty dark times, so I would call Jeff and say, hey, can we talk? Sure.
That's a great point and great advice, especially in sales, is you have to build a professional network.
Right.
But not just salespeople anymore. This is for everybody. I mean, especially if you're in a career that might not be a good fit for you and you want a lateral move out of it into something else, it's good to have those sort of connections available to you if that time does come.
I mean, there's a whole, on LinkedIn, a fellow, who served in the Army. Just start connecting with them and say, hey, can you help me? I'm looking for a job. And it goes back to, you can ask for help. And most veterans, if they serve honorably and they're humble and they want to be a part of something greater than themselves, will do everything they can to help you.
Sure.
Just don't burn the bridge. So
exactly.
And like I said, not every veteran. It's like I run across some veterans, and some are good, some are were okay. I mean, but for the most part, they wanted to serve honorably and serve something part of something greater than themselves, and they will do anything they can to help you.
What's one thing that you'd like our viewers to know about David King or Elite Human Capital that they might not know already?
So that's pretty cool because nobody actually knows me. No, it's it's like my employees. I mean, it would probably be better to ask that to Ben. I mean, it's this thing. I'm not from Wisconsin, so all of a sudden there's somebody else running the company. They know Dave is a lieutenant colonel, retired in the military. Never been on Facebook, never been on LinkedIn, and when I got out, I had to join it. Crystal was like, hey, you need to get to the 500, so I'd sit in the bathtub because I just had surgery on my back and just, who do you know? People you might know. And so,
sure.
As far as who I am, it's just a guy that has never quit, but has failed at things, and very humble and care about a lot of people, and care about the people here. And I don't know, it's just, I think I'm just, after Crystal passed, just trying to find myself. I thought I knew what I was doing, and I was going down to Florida, and I was doing day trading. I was doing pretty well at that, but after Crystal passed, my life changed. So I started reading all these professional books, trying to redefine myself, praying about it. So as far as what people would know about it, I have no idea. I'm on a different journey now. I just, I don't know, being in the military, you kind of knew who you were. You're battle captain one time, company commander the next, chief of staff for, logistics unit. But that's the hard thing about getting out of the military. You don't know. You were defined by your job for so long, and I don't know if it's the same for people that only serve 4 or 5 years. But after you serve 22, I mean, you get out and you see these guys, they show up, and you're like, why'd you take a GS job? Don't you want to see what else is out there? And they got khaki pants on, they wore their chloroform, so they obviously didn't know how to dress either. But it's the hard thing about when you get out of the military. The world is out there, and but the transition is the hard part. In some ways, it was probably good that it wasn't good that Crystal got sick, but that gave me a purpose. Because I was floundering when I got out. I would just sit around the house and go lift weights, and you can only clean the floor so many times. So, and we're in the position where I didn't have to work, but I wanted to work. And I don't know what other people go through when they transition out of the military, but I have a friend that, he's struggling. And he got out as a lieutenant colonel, and I think you don't know who you are anymore, and you don't know how you fit in society. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. It's like when Crystal passed, and people don't know it. That's the thing about being a veteran. They don't understand what you've been through. Whether you've been through a lot, there's just a lot of unanswered questions as far as, and they treat you with kid gloves. I mean, and they don't have to. You're just trying to fit in like everyone else. You just want to kind of blend into society. I mean, you have the veterans who are like, hey, I served, I did all that, but there's a vast majority that they just want to fit in now. They just don't know how, and that's kind of where I'm at. You know, when you're 2 years out, 4 years out, you're still trying to find out who you are, because your life was so regimented while you're in the military that it kind of defines you, and then you get out, there's no regiment. It's up to you to make life work, and it's just hard figuring that out. But the company kind of gives me a purpose, and you know, Crystal passing, you know, taking care of her gave me a purpose. But now I'm at the point now where the company's kind of getting where it needs to be, and so what's next? You know, as far as, but you know, like with most veterans, they're drawn to other veterans, they're drawn to cops, and they're drawn to bikers. It's just they live by a different code. You know, there's a structure, there's a regiment there, but you know, like I said, I wish I would have known anybody in the area, because I wasn't from Wisconsin, and so outside of work, I wish I would have, you know, met a few more veterans or leveraged that. But I think with some veterans, when they get out, they kind of shy away from the military for a couple of years, and then, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want anything to do with the military when I got out, because I wanted to find myself. But the reality of it is that is myself, as being a veteran. And so you kind of draw back into it.
How can people find out more about you or Elite Human Capital?
Well, we're obviously on Facebook. We have our website, elitehumancapital.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, for the company. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, but I think Instagram is just a place that people post more selfies. So, but I am on LinkedIn, I am on Facebook. So, and but the company's on all the media platforms that they should be on.
Sure. And if I'm a job applicant, you know, what's the best way to get in contact with you guys? What's the process?
Oh, the website, you can call in 262-785-0900. You can apply online. You can send me personally your resume. You can send any of the recruiters your resume, and they're very accessible. We have a pretty big web presence. So
awesome. Well, thanks again, David. Appreciate you being on VetBiz TV, man.
All right.
This episode of VetBiz TV is brought to you by the Star Group, Insurance and Risk Solutions, serving and protecting veteran-owned businesses. The Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is your success. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of VetBiz TV. We really do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. We'd love to hear your feedback. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.vetbiz.tv. Just hit the subscribe button. You'll be informed of all of our newest episodes and content coming out. Again, I want to thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.